She marched right up to the dock like she owned the whole lake, sunglasses pushed down on her nose and a clipboard in her hand. "You can't have guests here," she barked, pointing at my friends unloading their fishing gear. "HOA rules say this lake is for residents only." My buddies froze, looking at me, waiting to see what I'd do. I felt the anger crawling up my chest, but I stayed calm. This wasn't the first time she'd tried to push her fake rules on me. I stood, slow and steady, making sure my voice carried. "This is my land," I said, my finger pointing right back at her. "And that lake? It's on my property. You don't make the rules here." Her face went pale for a second, then twisted like she'd just swallowed something sour. "That's not true," she snapped. "I'm calling the HOA board. Your guests will be removed." My guests exchanged uneasy glances, but I waved them on. "Keep fishing," I told them, not breaking eye contact with Karen. That's when she pulled out her phone, her voice loud enough for the whole shore to hear. "Yes, I'm at lot 22. He's violating rules again. Bring security." She hung up with a smug grin, like she'd already won. But what she didn't know was that I had every deed, every survey, and every inch of proof locked in a folder back at the house. My grandfather bought this land before there was ever an HOA. They had no claim on this lake, no claim on me. Still, seeing her smirk, acting like she could order my life around, set something burning inside me. She strutted closer, leaning down like she wanted to whisper some kind of threat, but her words came out sharp and loud. "You'll regret fighting us. People who cross the HOA always lose." I didn't blink. "You should have checked who you're fighting before you came here," I said low enough that only she could hear. For the first time, she hesitated, her eyes narrowing like she was trying to figure out what I meant. Behind her, 2 black SUVs rolled up the dirt road, dust flying in the air. She folded her arms, satisfied. "They're here," she said proudly. "Now let's see you explain yourself," but I only smiled. "Yeah," I muttered, watching the cars stop at the gate. "Let's see." The SUVs stopped with a crunch of gravel and 2 men in black uniforms stepped out. They wore badges clipped to their belts, but the second I saw them, I knew something was off. Their patches were cheap iron-ons, and their guns, holstered too loose, looked more like props than standard issue. Karen waved at them like she was welcoming heroes. "Over here. This man is trespassing with unauthorized guests," she shouted, pointing right at me. One of the fake cops strode over, puffing his chest. "Sir, you need to pack up and leave. HOA rules forbid gatherings on this lake." He flashed his badge like it was supposed to scare me, but all I noticed was the spelling error on it. My friends stopped casting their lines, the air turning heavy with tension. One of them whispered, "Man, are they even real cops?" Karen cut in before I could answer. "Of course they are. The board sent them. He thinks he can do whatever he wants, but the HOA owns this water. Arrest him if he resists." She folded her arms like she'd just dropped the final blow. I stepped closer, my voice steady. "You boys want to tell me which department you're from?" They exchanged a quick glance, fumbling for words. That was all I needed. My hand tightened on my phone, thumb hovering over the screen where my camera had been recording since she first arrived. Karen noticed and snapped, "Turn that off. You can't record HOA enforcement." The more she barked, the more her mask slipped. Her face was red now, veins showing at her neck. I smiled, calm but sharp. "Karen, you just brought impersonators onto my property. You know that's a felony, right?" The fake cop nearest to me flinched, then tried to recover, resting his hand on his belt. "You're making this harder than it needs to be. Step away from the lake." That's when I let the first twist slip. "Funny," I said, pulling a small badge from my wallet and holding it up so everyone could see. "Because the county sheriff's office says otherwise." Karen's eyes went wide. My buddies froze in shock. "The fake cops?" They turned pale. Karen stuttered, pointing at me. You're lying. That can't be real." But she wasn't so confident anymore. The fake cops didn't move closer. In fact, they took a half step back. I lowered my voice but kept it firm. "This land is mine. This lake is mine. And if you don't back off right now, Karen, you'll be explaining to real law enforcement why you hired actors to trespass." The silence hung heavy, broken only by the sound of water lapping against the dock. For the first time, Karen didn't have a comeback. She just clenched her jaw, trembling with rage. But her plan was falling apart right in front of her. Karen's lips quivered. But before she could spit out another threat, the faint wail of sirens echoed through the trees. My buddies glanced at each other nervously while Karen's smugness came flooding back. She tilted her chin high. Finally, she sneered. The real police are coming to deal with you. She turned to her fake cops. Stay put. Let the professionals finish this. The SUVs hadn't even left when a county cruiser pulled up behind them, lights flashing red and blue. A real deputy stepped out, his uniform crisp, his badge glinting under the afternoon sun. The difference was night and day. The fake cops stiffened, their faces draining color. The deputy walked straight toward me, giving Karen only the briefest glance. Afternoon. Got a report of a disturbance. His voice was calm, authoritative, the kind you don't argue with. I held up my phone. Good timing, officer. You'll want to see this. Karen jumped in front of me, practically waving her arms. No, don't listen to him. He's the problem. He's breaking HOA rules, bringing unauthorized people onto restricted water. I called security. They're handling it. She gestured proudly toward her officers. The deputy looked at them, then back at her, his eyebrow arching. Security? These two? He stepped closer, eyeing their badges. Ma'am, do you realize impersonating law enforcement carries serious prison time? Karen blinked, caught off guard. What? No, they're not impersonating. They're private enforcement, she stuttered, her confidence cracking as the deputy pulled one of the fake badges from the man's vest. Turning it over, he shook his head. This isn't even close to legal. My friends couldn't hold back their chuckles. One of them muttered, busted, loud enough for everyone to hear. I folded my arms, letting the moment build. Officer, I told them this was my land. I've got the deed, the surveys, everything. HOA has no rights here. I glanced at Karen, her face now flushed red, but instead of checking facts, she called in imposters to intimidate me. The deputy's jaw tightened. He radioed for backup, eyes still locked on Karen. Ma'am, you need to step aside now. Karen's mask shattered. This is ridiculous. You don't know who I am. The board will ruin you for this. Her voice cracked, a mixture of rage and panic, but nobody was buying it anymore. The fake cops tried to edge back toward their SUV, but the deputy's voice cut like steel. Don't move. Hands where I can see them. They froze, caught like kids sneaking candy. And as the backup sirens drew closer, I leaned in just enough for Karen to hear me. You wanted a fight, Karen. Now you're about to get one you can't win. Her eyes flickered. For the first time showing something I'd never seen in her before. Fear. Two more cruisers roared down the dirt road, dust kicking high into the air as they skidded to a stop behind the first patrol car. Real deputies piled out, hands resting casually near their holsters. Their eyes narrowing the moment they spotted Karen and her fake enforcers. The lake had gone silent. My guests stopped fishing. My buddies froze mid-breath, and even the wind seemed to hold back as the scene unfolded. One deputy approached Karen directly. Ma'am, step away from them. His tone wasn't a suggestion. Karen tried to laugh it off, but her voice cracked. You don't understand, I called them. They're here on HOA business. She pointed frantically at the fake cops, who now looked like they were praying for the ground to swallow them. The lead deputy raised his radio, muttering a quick code, then fixed his gaze back on Karen. These men aren't licensed law enforcement. That means they're trespassing. And if you called them here, that makes you complicit. Gasps broke out from my friends. My neighbor, who'd come down from his cabin when the siren started, whispered, She's done for. Karen stomped her foot like a spoiled child. You can't do this? I'm on the HOA board. We make the rules. That's when the deputy dropped the hammer. Not here, you don't. This land isn't HOA property. We pulled the county records on the way. He turned, nodding at me. Belongs entirely to him. Karen's jaw dropped. She looked at me like I'd just betrayed her deepest secret. You tricked me. I couldn't help the grin. No, Karen, you tricked yourself. All I did was let you talk. I held up my phone, the camera still recording. And now the whole world can see exactly what you tried to pull. The crowd had grown. Word must have spread because a few more neighbors stood at the edge of the dirt road, phones out, recording every second. Karen's face drained of color when she noticed the lenses aimed at her. She tried to cover her face with her clipboard, but it was too late. The deputies moved in, cuffing the two imposters while Karen shouted and flailed. Don't you touch me. I'm not the criminal, he is. He... Her words were drowned out by the chorus of camera shutters and laughter from the neighbors. One of my buddies muttered just loud enough for her to hear. HOA Karen. Trending by tonight. The deputy finally faced her. Ma'am, you're coming with us. You'll have a chance to explain downtown. Karen's knees buckled, her power slipping through her fingers in front of everyone. And as they led her past me, she hissed through gritted teeth, "This isn't over." I leaned close, my voice calm but sharp. "It's already over. You just don't know it yet." By the time Karen was shoved into the back of the cruiser, half the neighborhood had gathered at the edge of the lake. Phones were raised high, some people recording, others already live streaming. The sound of laughter mixed with Karen's muffled screams from inside the car. She banged the window with her palm, her face red, her hair sticking out in every direction. For a woman who spent her life trying to control others, the sight of her trapped in a cage of her own making was almost poetic. One deputy leaned into me. "Sir, you're free to press charges if you'd like. She brought these men here under false pretenses. We're booking them for impersonating officers. As for her, well, she's facing conspiracy charges at the very least." His words weren't loud, but the neighbors nearby heard enough to start whispering, their voices carrying conspiracy, charges, prison. My phone buzzed in my hand. One of my fishing buddies nudged me, grinning wide. "Man, check this out. You're already blowing up on TikTok." I opened the app, and sure enough, the video of Karen screaming at the dock, me calmly telling her, "This is my land," was already circulating. Thousands of views in minutes, comments flooding in. Classic HOA Karen. He handled that like a boss. She's cooked. Karen saw me holding my phone and lost it completely. She slammed her shoulder against the window, yelling, "Delete that! You don't have permission. I'll sue every last one of you." But her words only fueled the fire. The crowd laughed harder, some even chanting, "Justice! Justice!" like it was a Friday night ball game. And then came the real twist. One of the deputies' radios crackled and I caught the words, "Be advised. County records confirm. Subject has a history of filing fraudulent claims. Open warrant pending review." The deputy standing by the car exchanged a look with his partner, then opened the back door again. Karen froze. "Wait, what are you doing?" The deputy's voice was cold. "You've got an outstanding warrant, ma'am. This isn't just about today." He pulled her out of the car as she kicked and screamed, her clipboard falling to the dirt. The neighbors gasped, phones zooming in as Karen shrieked, "This is harassment. I am the HOA." But there was no power left in her voice, just desperation. The same neighbors she'd bullied for years now recorded her downfall, their cheers drowning out her protests. My buddy slapped my shoulder. "Man, she's done. Nobody comes back from this." I kept my eyes on her as the deputies read her rights. For years she acted untouchable. Now in front of everyone she was just another criminal being hauled away, and deep down I knew this was only the beginning of her unraveling. Within 24 hours the clip was everywhere. News anchors replayed the moment Karen shouted, "I am the HOA," as deputies dragged her away. Memes exploded online, her red face frozen mid-scream with captions like, "HOA Karen meets the real law." Even late-night hosts picked it up, laughing at the absurdity of a neighborhood tyrant trying to police a private lake with fake cops. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Reporters wanted statements. Neighbors sent messages of support, some even apologizing for ever siding with her in past disputes. One man from down the street wrote, "She fined me $200 last year for planting the wrong flowers. Seeing her in cuffs was the best thing I've ever watched." But the biggest fallout came from the HOA board itself. By the second day, a notice appeared online, effective immediately. Karen W. has been suspended from the HOA board pending legal proceedings. The comments underneath were brutal. Neighbors telling stories of her intimidation, her fake fines, her constant harassment. It turned out I wasn't the only target, just the first to push back hard enough. Still, the board wasn't exactly clean. A leaked email started circulating where Karen bragged about making an example out of me. The line that got everyone's attention? "We'll take his lake if we have to." That single sentence shifted everything. Suddenly, it wasn't just about Karen, it was about the HOA itself. The media ate it up. Headlines screamed, "HOA power grab exposed, private property under siege." And then the county commissioner got involved, announcing an investigation into the HOA's practices. What started as one woman's tantrum was turning into a county-wide scandal. Karen, meanwhile, was denied bail because of her outstanding warrant. She sat in county jail while the world laughed at her. But somehow, even from behind bars, she managed to get a message to the board. A neighbor showed me a screenshot of her email, dripping with venom. "He thinks he's won. Make sure he pays." I don't care how. The board might have distanced themselves publicly, but behind the scenes I could feel their eyes shifting toward me. The sudden silence from their side wasn't comfort, it was a warning. My friends joked about me being a local hero, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this fight wasn't over. One night, as I sat on the porch overlooking the calm water of the lake, headlights crawled down the dirt road and stopped at my gate. Not deputies this time, a black sedan, tinted windows, engine idling. Whoever was inside didn't get out, they just sat there watching. I leaned forward in my chair, the weight of it hitting me. Karen might be locked up, but the board wasn't finished. And now the game was changing. The black sedan sat there like a shadow that didn't belong. Its engine hummed low, the headlights fixed on my gate, cutting through the dark like two unblinking eyes. I waited, sipping from the coffee mug in my hand, trying not to show the unease creeping into my chest. 10 minutes passed. No door opened. No window rolled down. Just the steady rumble of that engine. Finally, I set my mug aside and walked down the porch steps. Gravel crunched under my boots as I approached the gate, phone ready in my pocket. "You lost?" I called out. My voice carried across the night air, sharp and steady. For a long moment, silence. Then the passenger side window rolled down just enough for a voice to slip through. It wasn't Karen's. It was a man, calm and cold. "You should have just paid your dues. Things would have been easier." The words hit harder than they should have. Paid my dues? I didn't owe the HOA a single cent. My land was never theirs to claim. I stepped closer, my hand brushing the phone in my pocket, ready to hit record. "This is private property. You've got 5 seconds to leave." The driver leaned forward, his face barely visible under the dashboard light. "Karen was messy," he said flatly. "She let her emotions run wild. But the board? We're not messy. We finish what she starts." The window slid back up before I could reply. The sedan's engine growled, and it reversed slowly, tires spitting gravel as it disappeared back into the night. No plates on the back, just darkness swallowing it whole. I stood there at the gate, my fists clenched. This wasn't just about Karen anymore. The board was behind her the whole time, and now they wanted me to back down. Or worse. The next morning, I woke to find a notice taped to my fence post. Not one of Karen's handwritten fakes. This was official HOA letterhead stamped and signed. It read, "You are in violation of HOA Code 14.2, unapproved gatherings on community water. Cease immediately or further action will be taken." I laughed bitterly. Community water. They were doubling down, pretending the lake was theirs even after the county confirmed otherwise. But tucked inside the notice was something more chilling. A single Polaroid photo of me sitting on the porch last night, mug in hand, headlights glaring behind me. They weren't bluffing. They were watching. I gripped the photo, my jaw tight. If they wanted a war over my land, they were about to learn the same lesson Karen did. They picked the wrong man. The moment I saw that Polaroid, I knew this wasn't just intimidation. It was a declaration of war. They wanted me scared, isolated, second-guessing every shadow. But fear wasn't new to me. I'd faced worse in uniform overseas, and I sure as hell wasn't going to fold to a handful of paper pushers hiding behind HOA stationery. I gathered every file, every survey map, every deed my grandfather ever kept. Then I pulled the footage. Karen's meltdown at the dock, the fake cops, the arrest, even the black sedan creeping up my road. By dawn, I had a folder thick enough to bury the whole board. The next HOA meeting was packed, standing room only. Neighbors came with their phones ready, whispers buzzing like hornets. When I walked in, the board members stiffened, eyes darting between one another. They hadn't expected me to show up. They expected me to hide. I walked straight to the front, dropped the folder on the table so hard it echoed. Papers spilled across the wood. Deeds, county maps, screenshots of viral headlines, and the photo they left on my fence. Gasps rippled through the room. "You've been lying to everyone," I said, my voice steady, but loud enough to carry to the back row. "Karen wasn't a rogue member, she was doing your dirty work. And when she failed, you tried to scare me off my own land." I held up the Polaroid for the crowd to see. "This isn't HOA business. This is stalking." The room erupted, neighbors shouting, cameras flashing, board members fumbling for words. One of them, a slick man in a suit, tried to cut in. "That's enough. You don't belong here," but I didn't let him finish.